The Illusionist. Let me start this off by saying, no, this is not a review of the 2006 film with Ed Norton and Paul Giamatti. If you were thinking to come in and expect that, well, let me just tell you...
It's a trick. It's not real. I apologize if I've given you any false hope. My intention has only been to entertain. Now, I appreciate your support. But you must go home.
Yes, what this review will actually be about is the 2010 Oscar-nominated animated feature by acclaimed director Sylvain Chomet. Interestingly enough, even if the film was made in the late 2000s and released in 2010, it actually used an old script that was never produced by legendary French filmmaker Jacques Tati. Allegedly, in 1956, Tati made it as a semi-autobiographical feature to show his regret and try to make things up for his daughter that he abandoned when she was just a baby, and the reason why Jacques never made the film was because it was something that ended up being too close to home for him to bring to life. So there's no surprise that when Chomet got the script in 2000, controversy would follow with some of Tati's descendants. But years and several awards and nominations later, can The Illusionist revive some of Jacques Tati's magic and animation? Or is this nothing but a dirty trick? Let's find out. The story. What the movie presents is a slice of life story, but not an enjoyable one. Well, I'm not saying that it's bad at all. I mean more that this is one of the most melancholy animated features ever produced. The best way to summarize the story is the downfall of vaudevillian-style entertainment. Set in 1959, a magician is having a hard time trying to catch up with the more popular and younger performers like a rock and roll group, and he tries everything he can in order to make some profit, and taking care of a girl that joins him on his struggling journey to make a livable wage. As the film looks through the perspective of the magician, it sends a clear message that you can't always rely on your old tricks to go through life. Well, no pun intended. Actually, would that be the moral of the movie? Oh my god, I think I fully get it now. Anyways, what makes the story effective is how hard it is to accept the truth. The feature made the Illusionist character sympathetic and someone whom audiences want to see succeed. But with every failed venue and other sad attempts to make money, it makes it more apparent that he can't live by just doing a few magic tricks alone, especially if he has to provide for more than just himself. At the same time, there is a side plot with the girl in her point of view as she helps the people around her as her gifts help her become a better version of herself. Thankfully, it connects well to the main story to present the Illusionist as a father figure and how he touched the lives of others.
Alice. Et...
Nadrosa show.
Now, if I do have to give a bit of criticism onto the story, it does happen when it can get repetitive. During a good chunk of the film, it follows a pattern where it starts with the Illusionist moving to a different place to perform his magic, the girl Alice sees something she likes, his show was a flop, he gives her a nice piece of clothing as a gift, and repeat. It keeps doing it so much that it does make one wonder if he would eventually catch on that doing the exact same thing over and over won't make success suddenly appear. Kinda predictable how he didn't have a comeback, don't you think? But with whichever way he tries to make things work out, the story works in delivering the beauty of sorrow. The animation. There's a strange irony with the way this film is presented as an animated film. While the movie is about an old-fashioned performer that's losing his touch with audiences, the animation medium it uses can be considered outdated by mainstream standards. With the hand-drawn style of Sylvain Chomet, it almost feels like a throwback to the classic Disney films made by the 9 Old Men. For the character designs, it keeps itself more realistic than the complete stylized look of the triplets of Belleville, but keeps itself in the animated realm by presenting a caricatured look. As for the backgrounds, they show a detailed look at the street sides and rooms that the magician resides, with strong use of lines and an oil painting-like look to fill in the colors and to give the film an artistic flair. But while those aspects can make the film look nice at first glance, its true magic resides in the character animation. While there are a few moments where some people talk, it's the kind of feature where their actions express more than what they say. Of course, the characters stay more down to earth with their movements, but it is beautifully smooth that it even makes the subtleties feel real. On top of that, each character have their own unique way of moving around, including the energetic trapeze artist, the elegant Alice, the aggressive rabbit, and the unforgettable drunken Scotsman.
Oh, that's not it. And I can just, do things, you know,
It's been a long time since animation was usually like this, but this is a case that sometimes nothing beats the oldies. The characters. While this may discuss more about the fading fad of classic stage entertainment, this can also be interpreted as a character-driven type of film by the two main leads. First, there's the Illusionist himself. As I've said before, he's a struggling magician trying to keep his art alive despite the public showing less interest in classic-style entertainment. He does show some heart by treating the girl who follows him like his own daughter, but as the movie progresses, he becomes more delusioned by his own magic when reality kicks in that making a decent salary is much more important than performing on stage with little reward. While it only shows him when his career was at its lowest, it would be even more heartbreaking to think about a time before 1959, or a period when his classic magic tricks were beloved by audiences. Then there is Alice, the young girl who worked at a Scottish pub, but then follows the Illusionist in the hopes of a more exciting life with him. As the movie shows the title character in a downhill slope, her life actually gets better as time would move on. With every new piece of clothing she gets, she gains a little more confidence and more people start to notice her, which she greets them with kindness. While she may sound like she could have a happily ever after in the movie, her relationship with the Illusionist is one of the film's strengths that keeps audiences' engagement, and, well, one of her roles is to show how life can affect others. As for the other performers, they are also great and fascinating examples of fading performers of old times, like the ventriloquist, the trapeze artist, and the clown. The movie also shows how they are dealing with their failing act, and some can end up even worse than the magician. However, as interesting as they can be, they don't have a lot of screen time, mostly serving as another person going through the same problem as the main character, showing little of their own story. Even the other characters would either be someone who would give the Illusionist a tip to go to another place for work, or someone who's taking advantage of him. But even with their similar roles, they do have a unique characteristic to make them stand out on their own. They may be going through some very tough times, but the characters do help this movie to be as grand as ever. It's a depressing feature, but in all the right ways. The Illusionist is a sombering yet beautiful tale of rejecting magic in favor of reality, filled with real and sympathetic characters, a powerfully written story, and some very smooth and amazingly crafted animation. While this may not be ideal if you're looking for something to have a good time with, I still highly recommend to check this one out, especially if you're in the mood for something international to advance your movie culture. I'm sure that Jacques Tati himself would be happy with what Sylvain Chomet made with his script. Well, it's quite a personal script for him, so maybe, I don't know, I'm not really sure, but, well, at least I'm satisfied with it, and happy to give this the AniMat's seal of approval. Hey guys, this is AniMat, and even though, yeah, this is a pretty sad and depressing film, and it doesn't necessarily put you in a good mood, but man, it's still a wonderful piece of work by Sylvain Chomet, and I really do admire what he and his team have done with The Illusionist. And when I was watching it, I thought back about magicians in general, and it did give me a sad little thought about them, that we don't often see the classic style of magicians anymore. Like, what we normally think about magicians that we would often see in, like, Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny cartoons, even though, like, those ones would be made, like, in the 40s or 50s and stuff like that. Nowadays, that type of imagery is no longer prominent anymore. At least in terms of the classic magician where we see him in like formal suits, or him or her in like these like fancy suits, wearing a top hat, maybe having like a fancy little mustache. And their tricks they would do, it would involve just like small things, you know, with flowers and a deck of cards, or even just pulling a rabbit out of a hat. But nowadays, the image of a magician is something that's more wild and crazy, like with an eccentric attitude, or showing them as a weird individual. And they would perform these crazy stunts that would involve body manipulation, or they would do something that's extreme, like makes trucks disappear. And that's the thing with magicians nowadays, is try to be a little more provocative, try to be a little more extreme with their tricks and their magic and all that kind of stuff. And the only way that you would see magicians nowadays be prominent is either if you would go see some kind of performance in Las Vegas, or you would watch one of those competitive reality shows like in America's Got Talent or something like that. But we don't often see the old style of magicians anymore, and it kind of does make me miss that and wonder if we do even see them be prominent anymore. Like, you know, the classic Houdinis and all that kind of stuff, you know? Like, watching this movie really did make me miss them, and it is kind of sad to see their downfall along with the other performers as well. So yeah, it does make me look back and think, yeah, I do miss seeing those classic magicians, and when, like, it is extravagant to see them pull a rabbit out of a hat. But anyways, now that The Illusionist is pretty much done, it is now time that we shall go and move on to our next review through a Patreon request. And this time, it's going to be coming from Ryan Walterson. So I just want to start off by saying that if you guys would like to be like Ryan and you want to go and support my work and get some amazing rewards at the same time, including watching my videos before anyone else, then all you have to do is just go to patreon.com/animat. But at the same time, if you guys would like to go and suggest an animated film you would like me to review and I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is go to, or just write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. So, with all that said and done, what is it specifically that Ryan Walterson suggested me to go and review? Well, this might be a little bit of a controversial one, or maybe more controversial, not necessarily the movie itself, but rather the fact that I am doing this, because I'm gonna be going back to the very beginnings, the origins even. But not necessarily the origins of animation. Like, we're not going to be going way back in time to see the very beginnings of the medium and see one of the first animated features ever made. No. That's not what I'm talking about. We're not going to see
the first piece of animation, we're going to see one of the first made by Sony's animation.
You must go home.